Hi guys, so the Tory rebellion that we'd all heard about has come to nothing. A pointless exercise by a bunch of pathetic windbags. Now on Tuesday the so-called rebels were riding high. Even though they didn't succeed in getting sufficient support for their amendments, they did believe that the government was under pressure. But on Wednesday, following a lot of rhetoric, they showed what cowards they truly are and didn't pull the plug on the Tory government. Sam Coates from Sky News summed it up perfectly. A bit of a joke. Have a listen.
Well, they marched us to the top of the hill and now we're going back down again, bluntly. Look, I actually felt the wind went out of this entire rebellion, not today, but yesterday, about an hour after that surprise vote of about 70. 70 voted against the government for one of the critical amendments, 60 of whom were Conservatives. About an hour after that, a parade of rebels coming on this show, not being able to tell you that they were going to vote against at the critical moment today. And effectively what it ended up looking like is a whole bunch of Tory MPs virtue signalling, but in the end backing down. And I think that Number 10 will be very relieved where we are this evening. There have been big arguments through the day between different rebels. I understand one of the discussions going on in the rooms in Parliament has been whether or not they vote against or they all abstain. Incredibly, there's been a long discussion today about whether or not the cleverest thing for the rebels to do tactically is to sit on their hands. You know, when you listen to Suella Braverman make that extraordinary kind of speech in the Commons saying that the British voters will not forgive us if the government fails to stop channel crossings and they would be right to do so. When you consider that the debate a couple of hours later in private is, maybe we'll just not vote. You know, it's a bit of a joke, you know.
It's a bit of a joke. The Conservative Party is a bit of a joke. Now, what the hell is going on here? Well, there are two things to consider. First of all, the virtue signalling, as Sam Coates pointed out. This is about MPs standing up in the House of Commons, delivering a passionate speech about how they care about immigration and they care about their constituents, having a clip of that, putting it on social media to convince their constituents that they need to vote for that MP at the next general election. This is about them looking after number one. They understand an election is coming up and they don't want to see the government collapse. They want to be seen by their constituents as, delivering a passionate speech in the House of Commons on their behalf. That's what Suella Braverman is doing. That's what others have been doing. But in private, of course, they don't want to bring down the government. They don't want to be blamed for that because they're going to lose their seat. So they want to hold on for as long as possible, but at the same time, convince the crazy people within their constituencies that they're fighting on their behalf. Now, this is good news in a sense, for Rishi Sunak. It means that the rebellion has been somewhat defeated and he can limp on a bit further. But it's pretty pathetic. It's a joke. What's the problem within the Conservative Party is you have all these different factions who are trying to throw their weight about. We saw it before with the Windsor Framework when it came to the ERG and the Star Chamber, and before the vote they had to meet with the lawyers to decide whether the Windsor Framework was legally sound, and all this back and forth, and they're interviewing Mark Francois on TV, on GB News, on Sky, on whatever, and him explaining how well we need to make sure that Northern Ireland is protected and all of this. And then when it came to the vote, it passed with flying colours. It had a massive majority, probably one of the biggest majorities in the House of Commons, in support of the Windsor Framework. So the ERG and the headbangers, when push came to shove, they realised we don't want to be blamed for this sinking, so we're going to go along with the government. But beforehand, we'll do a lot of virtue signalling. We'll stand up in the House of Commons, we'll bleat about how we care about Northern Ireland, how this is a risk to the Union, this is not delivering Brexit or whatever. And the same thing happening today, on Wednesday. The rebels, the rebellion came to nothing because these people are just charlatans. They're windbags. They're not of any substance. They don't actually have any principles, unless the principle is, I need to hold on to my seat. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.